Hello everyone, greetings again, and welcome to another video talking about U.S. government spending. And the focus of this video will be talking about America's foreign military bases around the planet and how much money goes into spending on that. The topic of U.S. government spending has been very popular, especially right now with Elon Musk and the Doge agency and their supposed mission of trying to find wasteful government spending and how to cut back on it. Well, the biggest example to look at would be the U.S. Department of Defense and the Pentagon and military spending, because that is where the bulk of U.S. spending is. And there should be an audit and review of all of the money that is spent in the Pentagon and the Department of Defense and the military. But I'm very skeptical that Doge is really going to go there. So after my own research looking at the Department of Defense website, the U.S. Department of Defense says that the U.S. spends an estimated $55 billion a year on overseas military bases. That's a lot of money to spend every year to maintain a global military footprint. And I want to go more into what are some of the actual costs involved in maintaining foreign military bases. And then also later in this video, I'm going to talk about which countries does the United States have foreign military bases. And then it really is up to you, the viewers. Does the United States really need all of these bases? All of them? Or could the U.S. start cutting back on some of the spending, close some of these bases, and start tightening its belt and actually saving money? The United States Congress hasn't balanced the U.S. national budget since 2001, and yet our government still wants to do more military expansionism. So let's dive into this. So let's break down some of the costs that are involved in maintaining all these foreign military bases of the United States. One of the costs involves rent money, because not all the countries around the world host American military bases for free. So in some countries, in Africa, for example, like Djibouti, they lease land for other countries to use for military bases. Djibouti, for example, in East Africa, hosts a French military base, an American military base, and a Chinese military base. And they charge all those three countries rent money to have a base in their country. And that's really the incentive for a lot of countries to host foreign military bases, because they can charge a lot of money for rent and make a lot of money. And so the United States gives money to some of these honestly corrupt dictatorships in Africa, money so that they can have a military base there. But it's not for free. The U.S. pays the governments there every year a lot of money, sometimes to the tune of millions of dollars, to have a military base in that country. In some countries, such as South Korea, the government there helps with cost sharing. So there's some countries that do help pay with the U.S. to maintain the bases, but other countries, they do charge the United States rent money for leasing, and the U.S. has to pay the lease each year to have the base there. Also part of the costs of maintaining foreign military bases, the United States has to house and feed every American soldier who is stationed in a foreign military base. And that costs a lot of money. Then there's also a lot of the money involved in the transportation from ocean to ocean, taking the soldiers, taking military equipment, vehicles, weapons from ships, from ocean to ocean, from the Atlantic and Pacific Ocean. That costs a lot of money also. So those are some of the obvious costs involved in trying to maintain a global military footprint.
Let's now go through a list of which countries around the world the United States has foreign military bases. Starting with closest to home in Latin America, the United States has a military base in Cuba, the Guantanamo Bay Naval Base. In Puerto Rico, which is a U.S. territory, the United States has military bases on that island. In the Central American nation of Honduras, the United States has a military air base. And in the past, I have made videos on my YouTube channel, in depth about those military bases. And there are, according to what I've been reading, plans for the United States on trying to create a new military base in Ecuador in South America. We'll see if that finally happens or not. That's up in the air. But the United States does have an interest in constructing a new military base in Ecuador. In the continent of Europe, the United States has military bases in Italy, Germany, Belgium, Norway, the Netherlands, and Iceland. In East Asia, the United States has military bases in Japan, South Korea, and in the Philippine Islands. In West Asia, also known as the Middle East, the United States has military bases in Turkey, Iraq, Syria, Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, and Bahrain. Further out in the Pacific, the United States has a military base in Australia. The United States has a military base in the Marshall Islands, Papua New Guinea, Guam, the Samoan Islands, and several other Pacific islands. In the continent of Africa, some of the countries where the United States has military bases and military forces are Cameroon, Kenya, Chad, Djibouti, and Somalia.